Hello and welcome to Web Relates. Today we've got some gossip from the r/AskReddit subreddit, where Isabel K has asked people who've seen someone get fired on the first day, why were they fired? Headfit says, new substitute teacher fired on day one for writing, "Be quiet!" in Sharpie on two kids' foreheads. Did that teacher know that they can't see their own foreheads? Shustub says, while in the local Walmart needing to take a leak, walked into the bathroom to a manager and an employee staring down a stall covered in poop. The manager was explaining to the dude that cleaning poop is in the job description. And the guy responded, "Well, I'm sorry that this is my first day, but screw that," and walked out. Soup is for Winners says, I hired a temp for data input. Her first day, a guy pulled me aside and said, "She can't be here." Apparently, one of our full-time employees had a restraining order against her. I sent the employee home and apologized, and then called her agency and told them that she was not welcome back. Not sure what the order was for, but my guess is stalking. She knew what she was doing. God Machine Broke says, I worked in a kitchen and a new guy came in. I asked him to go grab something from our cleaning supplies storage, which was in a shed out back. He was gone for a while, so I took a look at the cameras, and he was smoking a blunt while peeing in the shed right next to the cleaning supplies. I mean, really, it just sounds like he's just giving himself more work. It's proactive if you think about it. Panther says, Homeboy was allowed to play music on Bluetooth for the restaurant on the first day. He went to the bathroom and started watching Korn, and forgot he was still on the speakers. Hilarity and dismissal ensued. You know, I've heard of people in McDonald's being able to connect to their Bluetooth to the TVs and playing all sorts of things. Is that really true? Ebor Rooster. Security guard showed up high and late at work, and then crashed the golf cart. Diary of Zero says, new hire called in on the first day of orientation. Tells them she can't start work until next week. Quarantine, the day she was supposed to return to work with a doctor's note. Worked a couple of days, then she called in again and said 2 weeks before she could come back to work. Hurt her back. She worked the first 2 days after her leave was up and called in the next day saying it would be another week before she could come back to work. At that point, they had reviewed some security footage for law enforcement, completely unrelated, and caught her stealing. Not from the company, but from another employee. So she was fired. 2 days later, her husband shows up to surprise her at work with a homemade dinner, and the boss has to deal with it. Apparently, she was telling him that she was working a lot of hours for the last month and a half. Diary of Zero has a follow-up. Apparently, she wanted to be a stay-at-home wife, no kids, but her husband was against that. So her plan was only to work a couple of days a month and live out her fantasy and keep the husband in the dark. I have no idea how she planned on explaining the lack of payment. South Shield Travis says, I was working at a large-scale architectural firm in the Bay Area in 2004, and they hired a new guy, and after his orientation and paperwork, he finally gets to his cubicle. The first thing he does is put on his headphones and blast death metal, Cannibal Corpse, so loud that everyone can hear, and that's him using headphones. However, that was not what got him fired. His first work item was to write a company-wide email that said Debbie Harry of Blondie was responsible for 9/11 and wrote about 30,000 words for it. I have never seen our HR manager run out of her office so fast. Suit Monster says, mortgage company, 2017. A manager hired in from outside, not an internal promotion. Meet his team. I am on it. Probably only 45 people at that time. But one of them is a very well put together lady. She's younger than me, and I am younger than the manager guy was. She was super sweet and in no way interested in any office romance, let alone a guy probably twice her age. Literally at the first meeting, right after she introduced herself and said her name, he responded with, "Wow, you're a looker. We should smash. You'd like it." And then he 100% gave the rest of us a Michael Scott look. realizes what he has said is awful. But we just have to marinate in the silence that followed. The victim left the room, quietly, told the district manager in the next room over what happened, and the new guy was fired immediately after his welcome. Well, that's kind of scary. Not only is the guy looking at someone half his age, he also appears to have the social and mental filter of a 13-year-old. Coder Joe says, I fired a man on the first day for incompetence. I work in IT. He claimed to have years of experience, but even after I showed him how to edit a text file in Notepad, he couldn't do it. Our Sheikh follows up with his own little funny story. I have a funny one, and it was working in technical support. I'm using technical support in a much different way, where if a mechanic can't fix something, they can call technical support from the manufacturer, and potentially a corporate mechanic will come help fix stuff up at the actual location. I was a tech support mechanic for a relatively small marine electronics company, and was also the main sales rep in my area, and just was the go-to man for this brand in a region. I had said multiple times we needed another set of hands, and finally HR called and said they had someone, and he started that day. The guy showed up in khakis and a polo shirt. I was wearing trunks and flip-flops with a dirty company t-shirt, as this was a marine business in South Florida. And they had sent me a straight-up IT tech support guy. HR didn't realize what they were hiring for, and the poor guy didn't realize what he was applying for. Honestly, it went as good as it could have. I told him I could use the labor, and if he was good with the pay, I wouldn't bring it up while he looked for the job he actually wanted. And he tried his hardest for a couple of months until he had a new job. And at the end, he thanked me and said we had a really nice work vacation because he likes working with his hands in his free time. It was a really fun experience. I taught him how to fish too in our free time, hanging out at the docks. Could be a goofy buddy comedy if it wasn't such a lame subject. Begirin God says, my first day was also the first day for another dude, who showed up an hour and a half late. After being there for about 15 minutes and sort of starting to help me do the very first task we were assigned, he gets pulled into an office and fired. On his way out, he's walking past where I'm working, and he says, they fired me for being late. I can't believe it. Do you think you can give me a ride? I laughed out loud and sheepishly said, sorry, dude, I'm kind of working right now. He thanked me anyways and walked out the building. He accidentally did me a big favor because so many of my new co-workers saw that interaction and thought it was so incredibly hilarious. They all became immediately friendly with me to talk about it. Dude was a career wingman by making you look better. Grayson says, I worked in audio-visual for large corporate events a long time ago. We had a helper from another location help on a big conference. He criticized everything from the moment he walked in. After his shift, our boss chewed him out. He cried on his way out the door. Then he forgot his car keys and had to come back in. He wasn't fired, but he never came back to our location to help again. Sassy Cat Lady says, I've worked at a daycare for the past 15 years. One girl that got hired got fired within 1 hour by calling the babies things and screaming out stuff like, how do I shut this thing up? Or, God damn it, these things smell so bad. I kicked her out of the classroom after 10 minutes of this. I'd much rather have been by myself. And she was found laying on the break room table playing on her phone. I never saw the HR people get to my center so fast. Please, never let this person reproduce. Don't Blink says, I got fired at the end of my first day of work at a small gift shop in a national park. Apparently, I was supposed to show up for my first day of work knowing the entire product line, where it was located on the shelves, how much it cost, and where everything was in the storage room. The other employee, who was the golden girl and had worked there for 3 years, refused to help me learn and spent most of the day sitting out back getting high. The kicker was, the owner had spent the entire day upstairs watching the security cameras to see how I was doing, and knew that the other girl wasn't there doing her job. On the plus side, the owners of a nearby restaurant had been in the shop, and we had chatted while I was trying to find the item that they wanted. They hired me to work reception in their place because they figured that if I could still be pleasant and chatty while having an awful day, then I'd be perfect to greet their customers. It ended up being a good summer. Irish Spice has a related story. I was a Black Friday hire at Best Buy. I had a week to get up to speed. Absolutely no one showed me what to do or answered my questions. I spent the days wandering around and trying to familiarize myself with products and prices. On that Wednesday, I find I'd be on the register, which no one would show me how to work. I turned in my ugly shirt with their logo and wished them well. Several people cursed me out as I left. Too bad. So sad. You should have done your job. And my employee discount still worked, so I came in on Black Friday and did some shopping. Lol. Finishing us out is The Loneliest Donkey. I fired a man on his first day. He showed up with his wife, who then proceeded to lecture me about how he wasn't allowed to work with any woman, including me, I'm a woman, and she had to be with him at all times. And I had to pay her the same hourly rate as him so that she could supervise him. I gave him the contact details for local domestic abuse agencies and divorce lawyers, and then sent him on his way. Alright, guys, that's it for today. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. And again, I'm still in the very early stages. Please let me know if there's any ideas you have for me to improve, particularly in the video editing department. I think I've made significant improvements on this video from the previous one. But let me know. Always open to learn. And until next time, cheers, buckos.